"That's cute," Craig Lensworth said with a smirk. "Did Amazon start selling fake Amex cards now?" One laugh, one stereotype, $1 billion deal, gone before lunch in downtown Chicago. Chicago, Tuesday morning. Snow from the night before still clung to the edges of Michigan Avenue, melting into gray slush as traffic hissed by. Inside Lensworth Motors, everything gleamed: glass, chrome, and confidence. A jazz instrumental hummed from overhead speakers, mixing with the smell of espresso and expensive cologne. Behind his glass office door, Craig Lensworth, 45, tall, crisp suit, and a Rolex that caught every flicker of sunlight, adjusted his tie and checked his reflection for the third time. His dealership, his empire, sat at the top of Chicago's luxury auto market. He loved that title. Top. Today, he was expecting a potential client from Apex Energy, a renewable energy company that had been negotiating a $1 billion fleet contract for months. The deal would make Lensworth Motors untouchable in the Midwest. But as fate would have it, the woman who walked through the glass doors that morning wasn't wearing a power suit. She wore a simple navy coat, faded jeans, and sensible shoes, the kind you wear when you've spent a lifetime on your feet. Her name was Amanda Carter. Craig didn't know that name. He should have. Amanda's heart beat faster as she stepped into the shining showroom. She'd cleaned homes like this, glassy, untouchable, full of people who didn't see her, but this wasn't work. Not today. She was here to buy, to experience how it felt to be treated as an equal. She walked past the polished Tesla Model X's and Porsche Taycans toward the display for the Falcon X Limited, a $200,000 electric SUV marketed to corporate clients. Its silver paint looked like liquid mercury under the showroom lights. A salesman gave her a once-over. Coat, no jewelry, a small purse, then looked away. Another one whispered something near the coffee counter. Amanda heard it. She always did. Craig finally stepped out from his office. "Can I help you, ma'am?" he asked with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Yes," Amanda said, her tone calm, soft. "I'd like to see the Falcon X Limited." He blinked. "The Falcon?" She nodded. "Yes, the one with the solar-integrated roof and the custom charging suite. I read you only have 3 in stock." He looked her up and down, then chuckled. "You read right, but they're, not exactly what we'd call everyday rides." Amanda smiled faintly. "That's fine. I'm not an everyday person." Something about the quiet certainty in her voice made him uncomfortable. Still, he gestured toward the car. "Sure, come on." The showroom echoed with her footsteps as Craig launched into his usual pitch: horsepower, torque, eco-efficiency. Amanda listened, nodding occasionally, tracing the smooth line of the hood with her fingertips. When he finished, she asked, "What would it take to purchase 5 of these, today?" He stopped mid-sentence. 5? Yes. 5 Falcon X's? That's right. His laugh came out sharper than he intended. "Ma'am, those run about $200,000 each. I can set you up with financing. I'll pay in full," Amanda interrupted, reaching into her small leather purse. She placed a matte black American Express Centurion card on the desk between them. Craig stared at it for a long second, the kind of stillness that hums with disbelief before the smirk returned. "That's cute," he said, flipping the card in his fingers. "Did Amazon start selling fake Amex cards now?" The room froze. 2 junior salesmen snickered near the espresso machine. Amanda didn't flinch. Her voice stayed even. "You're refusing to process my payment?" "I'm refusing to waste time on fairy tales," Craig said, still smirking. "Look, I'm sure you're lovely, but this card isn't real, And this isn't the kind of store where I can what? Amanda's tone sharpened for the first time. Craig leaned closer. You work nearby, right? Maybe cleaning offices? There's no shame in that. But you don't walk in here waving fake cards. The silence afterward felt like a physical thing pressing on the glass walls. Amanda's eyes darkened, not with anger, but with disappointment so profound it almost softened her features. She picked up her card, slid it back into her purse, and said quietly, "Thank you for your honesty, Mr. Lensworth." He straightened, confused. "You're welcome, I guess?" She dialed a number on her phone. "This is Amanda Carter," she said calmly. "Cancel the Apex Energy Fleet order, all 1,000 vehicles, effective immediately." Craig laughed again. The wrong laugh at the wrong time. "I'm sorry, what?" Amanda ended the call, met his eyes, and said, "You'll understand soon enough." Then she turned and walked out through the automatic glass doors, her reflection fading in the cold light of Michigan Avenue. Craig stood frozen, still holding the echo of his own laughter. Outside, Amanda breathed in the city air. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the release of years of quiet endurance. For 15 years, she'd been invisible, cleaning the Price estate in Lake Forest while people like Craig Lensworth passed her in hallways without seeing her. Eleanor Price had seen her, though, really seen her, and left her not just money, but power. Amanda looked up at the skyline, the Willis Tower, the John Hancock building glinting in the sunlight, and whispered, "Maybe now they'll finally look." And if you've ever been judged by your appearance, if someone's ever laughed at you before knowing your story, maybe this is your moment to see people differently. Because every view, every click, every subscription here, it's not just support, it's a promise that kindness still matters. 2 hours later, Craig Lensworth was back in his glass office, pacing. His espresso had gone cold. Something about the way that woman had said her name, Amanda Carter, kept echoing in his head. He tried to laugh it off, but every time his phone buzzed, a cold thread of anxiety ran through him. Then his assistant, Marissa, rushed in, face pale. "Craig, you need to see this." On her tablet was an email from Apex Energy's corporate office. Per directive from majority shareholder Amanda Carter, Apex Energy hereby withdraws from all pending agreements with Lensworth Motors, effective immediately. The words blurred for a moment. Craig blinked hard. "Amanda Carter," he whispered. "It can't be the same woman." "It is," Marissa said. "And the press already got it. CNBC just broke the story. Social media's blowing up." Craig's stomach dropped. Through the glass walls, he could see employees whispering, phones glowing in their hands. His reflection in the glass looked older, harsher. "Get me her contact information," he said, voice low but sharp. "Now." Amanda sat in her minimalist apartment, clean lines, soft jazz playing low, a small mug of tea steaming beside her. The windows overlooked the frozen lake, sunlight bouncing off the water like broken glass. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She let it ring once, twice, then answered. "Ms. Carter?" Craig's voice came through, tight and strained. "This is Craig Lensworth. I know who it is. I think there's been some misunderstanding. I didn't realize that I'm the woman you insulted this morning," Amanda finished. He swallowed hard. "Yes. Look, I said something out of line. I'm not proud of it. But $1 billion deal, surely we can talk." Amanda stood, looking out the window at the city that had never quite felt like hers. "You called me a maid playing rich," she said softly. "That wasn't a misunderstanding. That was who you are when no one's watching. Craig exhaled, pinching the bridge of his nose. I know how it looked, but you've got to understand. People come in every day trying to scam us. I made an assumption. A stupid one. Let me make it right. She turned away from the window. How many assumptions like that have you made, Mr. Lensworth? How many people did you laugh off before you realized they mattered? He didn't answer. There was nothing to say. Later that evening, Craig arrived at her building. The Legacy at Millennium Park, one of the most exclusive addresses in downtown Chicago. The doorman looked surprised, but still let him in after Amanda's assistant confirmed his name. The elevator ride up felt endless. His reflection in the chrome doors looked like a man walking into judgment. When the doors opened, Amanda was there, calm, composed, wearing a gray cashmere sweater and jeans. No diamonds, no pretense. Just quiet control. Mr. Lensworth, she said, stepping aside. You came. I had to. He took a deep breath. I need to apologize in person. Amanda motioned for him to sit. The skyline glittered behind her like 1,000 tiny witnesses. You know, she said, pouring tea for both of them, when I worked as a housekeeper, I met hundreds of people like you, men who looked through me, not at me. Craig frowned. You were a housekeeper? For 15 years, at the Price estate in Lake Forest. She smiled faintly. Eleanor Price left me her company, Apex Energy. I was her maid, but she said I was also the only person who ever listened. Craig leaned forward. So today, it was a test? No, Amanda said. It was just me trying to buy a car. You turned it into a test. The silence that followed was heavy. The ticking of a wall clock seemed louder than it should have been. I've worked hard to build this company, Craig said finally. I've hired hundreds of people. I'm not a racist, Amanda. I just didn't think someone like me could afford something like that. She finished again. He nodded slowly, shame blooming across his face. Yeah, I guess that's true. Amanda took a sip of tea. You see, Craig, I don't care about the car. I care about how people treat others when they think it doesn't matter, because that's when character shows up or doesn't. Craig's throat tightened. He'd built his empire on confidence, but sitting here he felt small. Can you give me another chance? He asked, his voice cracking slightly. For my employees, for the ones who didn't laugh. Amanda met his eyes. There was compassion there, but also boundaries. Second chances are earned, not requested. Start by learning from what you've lost. Craig stood, ready to leave, but before he reached the door, Amanda added, Mr. Lensworth? He turned. I don't hate you, she said, but I can't protect you from what comes next. He nodded, understanding that the story had already left his hands. The city would judge him now. Outside, the wind howled down Michigan Avenue, sweeping through the canyon of glass towers. Craig walked back toward his car, his reflection fractured in every storefront. He'd thought success made him untouchable. Now he knew better. You ever realize too late that you were the villain in someone else's story? If you've ever caught yourself judging before knowing, maybe it's time to change that. And if stories like this make you think, not just watch, maybe you belong here with us. Stay. Listen. Feel. Next morning, Wednesday, 8:15 a.m., Chicago. Loop. The skyline looked brittle under winter light, glass towers piercing a sky the color of steel. Inside the Lensworth Motors headquarters, chaos spread like wildfire. Craig Lensworth hadn't slept. His phone had buzzed all night with reporters, shareholders, even old college friends wanting to know if the story was true. Black Cardgate was trending on X. CNBC ran a headline: Lensworth Motors CEO accused of mocking black billionaire client. Apex Energy pulls $1 bodybuilder contract. In the video, someone had caught the moment. His laugh, the smirk, the exact words. Did Amazon start selling fake Amex cards now? It looped on social media side by side with Amanda Carter's face as she calmly left the dealership. The internet had already picked its hero and villain. Craig stared at his reflection in the conference room window as board members filled the seats behind him. "Gentlemen, ladies," said Bill Myers, the CFO, "we're down 12% in stock value overnight. Corporate clients are calling to pause orders. The board is meeting with legal at noon." Craig turned, his face drawn. "I know how it looks, but we can't let one misunderstanding destroy everything we've built. I'll issue a public apology." Bill's expression hardened. "It's not just optics, Craig. Apex Energy accounted for 40% of our annual projections. Without that deal, we're bleeding." The room fell silent. Craig felt the air leave his chest. For the first time in years, the confident CEO couldn't find words. Across town, Amanda sat in a quiet corner of Pete's Coffee near the Art Institute of Chicago, trying to hide behind a book. But people kept staring. Some whispered her name, others smiled gratefully. She didn't want fame, she wanted peace. Her assistant, Tanya, joined her, sliding into the booth. "You've become the face of poetic justice, Amanda. Everyone's talking about you. Oprah Daily wants an interview." Amanda sighed. "I didn't plan this. I just wanted to buy a car." Tanya studied her. "Are you okay?" Amanda nodded slowly, then shook her head. "No, I keep replaying his face when I made that call. The shock, the fear. I don't know if I feel vindicated or guilty." Tanya frowned. "He humiliated you. Publicly. You don't owe him guilt." Amanda looked down at her hands, small, steady, capable. "But he's still human, and I know what it feels like to be broken. I've been there." The sound of a cappuccino machine hissed, breaking the quiet. Outside, tourists moved in slow waves along Michigan Avenue. Later that day, Lensworth Motors. The press conference was scheduled for noon. Cameras crowded the lobby. Employees whispered from the mezzanine. Craig adjusted his tie again, the same nervous tick. His PR consultant whispered, "Keep it brief. Show remorse, don't justify." He nodded, stepping to the podium. Flashbulbs exploded like lightning. He took a breath. "Yesterday I said something I deeply regret. My words were insensitive and unprofessional. I take full responsibility for the pain they caused Ms. Carter and for how they reflect on our company. Lensworth Motors stands for respect and inclusion." And a reporter cut in. "Mr. Lensworth, reports say you accused Ms. Carter of using a fake card and implied she was lying about her wealth. Is that true?" He hesitated. Cameras zoomed in. "I made assumptions. I was wrong." Another shouted, "Have you spoken to Ms. Carter since?" Craig exhaled. "Yes, she was gracious. Far more than I deserved." The room buzzed. His eyes glistened as he stepped away, ignoring more questions. But when he reached his office, another blow waited. An email from Apex's lawyers. "Lensworth Motors is hereby prohibited from using any Apex Energy affiliation in marketing or branding." He sat down slowly, feeling the weight of years of arrogance collapse in on itself. That evening, Amanda walked the path near Navy Pier, the wind off Lake Michigan sharp against her face. Children laughed somewhere behind her, bundled in bright coats. She stopped at the edge of the water, staring out at the skyline, the same skyline she'd once cleaned windows to reflect. Craig found her there. He approached quietly, his coat collar turned up against the wind. "You shouldn't have come," she said without turning. "I know," he replied softly. "But I had to say it. Not for business, for me." Amanda faced him. His eyes were red, tired, but sincere. "I watched your press conference," she said. "You handled it better than I expected." "I meant what I said," he replied. "I was wrong. You taught me that wealth doesn't always wear what I expect, that power can be quiet." Amanda studied him, then looked back at the water. "Do you know what Eleanor Price once told me?" she asked. "She said power reveals people faster than poverty ever will. Maybe now you understand what she meant." Craig nodded. "I do." A silence lingered between them. Not hostile anymore, just heavy with truth. "I lost everything," he said finally. "But maybe I needed to." Amanda's eyes softened. "Sometimes loss clears space for better things. Just make sure you deserve the next chance you get." He nodded, tears shining in the wind. He left without another word, his figure fading into the crowd of evening joggers. Amanda stood there until the horizon turned orange, wondering how something so small, a laugh, could shift an entire life. 1 week later, Gold Coast, Chicago. Snow fell softly over the Patterson estate, the once hidden jewel of Lakeshore Drive that now belonged to Amanda Carter. The grand limestone mansion, its iron gates wrapped in ivy and winter light, glowed like a quiet secret. Inside, the rooms were warm, full of calm energy. No photographers, no assistants. Just Amanda, a cup of tea, and the faint jazz hum of WDCB 90.9 on the radio. She still hadn't returned any interview requests. The world wanted a statement. She wanted stillness. On the mantel sat a framed photo of Eleanor Price, her late employer and friend. Amanda traced the edge of the frame with her fingertips. "You'd probably tell me to let it go," she whispered. "That people like Craig will learn, or they won't." Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "This is Amanda." A familiar voice. "Ms. Carter, it's Craig Lensworth." A long pause. Amanda's tone was measured, but not cold. "Mr. Lensworth, I won't take much of your time," he said quietly. "I wanted to thank you for not destroying me completely." Amanda sat down. "You did that yourself." "I know," he said, "but I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about deserving a second chance. I'm trying. I've stepped down from CEO, sold my shares. I've started something smaller, a scholarship program for Black women studying automotive engineering. It's not much, but..." Amanda closed her eyes for a moment. "It's something. That's what matters." Craig's voice trembled. "I learned something about humility this week, about how much easier it is to destroy than to build, and to judge than to see," Amanda added softly. He didn't reply right away. I wanted you to know I'm sorry. Truly." Amanda's lips curved into a faint smile. "I know you are. I forgive you, Craig, but forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting." He exhaled audibly, a man finally unburdened. "Thank you." Before hanging up, he said one last thing. "You were right. That laugh, it cost me everything. But maybe it bought me something better." Amanda looked out the window at the falling snow. Maybe it did. She ended the call. For the first time in weeks, she felt something like peace. 2 months later. South Side, Chicago. Amanda stood before a newly refurbished community center, her coat buttoned tight against the wind. Above the entrance was a new plaque. the Price Carter Community Learning Hub, dedicated to empowerment, integrity, and second chances. Inside, a dozen teenage girls clustered around tables, learning basic coding and entrepreneurship from Apex Energy volunteers. Amanda watched them laugh, their voices echoing through the bright space. She turned to Tanya, her assistant. "They don't know how powerful they are yet," Amanda said. "They will," Tanya replied. A TV in the background played a morning talk show. The host discussed Lensworth Motors' bankruptcy filing and the viral legacy of Amanda's story. "It started as an act of prejudice," the host said, "but turned into a national conversation about dignity and power." Amanda turned down the volume. "I don't want them defining it as revenge," she said. "It was never about that." Tanya smiled. "Then how do you define it?" Amanda thought for a moment. "A lesson, for both of us." 6 months later, Auto Expo, McCormick Place. The Chicago Auto Expo buzzed with camera flashes and gleaming prototypes. Reporters swarmed around Apex Energy's new sustainable vehicle line. Amanda stood beside the display, elegant in a charcoal gray suit, simple jewelry, confidence that radiated quietly. She was no longer the maid who got lucky. She was the woman who changed how an entire industry talked about respect. Across the hall, Craig Lensworth, older, humbler, dressed plainly, worked at a booth for his scholarship foundation. Their eyes met across the crowd. He nodded once, a silent acknowledgement. She returned it. That was enough. Later that evening, Amanda walked alone along the river, the city lights shimmering on the water. A street musician played "What a Wonderful World" nearby, his voice cracked but tender. She stopped to listen. The sound carried memories. Eleanor humming that same song years ago while polishing silverware. A young woman recognized her. "Ms. Carter, are you really the one from the dealership story?" Amanda smiled gently. "That's me." The girl hesitated. "I saw the video. I cried. You were so calm. How did you not yell?" Amanda thought for a long second. "Because yelling would have made me small, and I already spent too many years feeling small." The girl nodded, eyes glistening. "Thank you for showing us what grace looks like." Amanda pressed a hand to her chest. "Grace isn't easy, but it's always worth it." The girl walked away, and Amanda looked at the skyline once more, her city, her home, her second chance. "That's cute," Craig had said months ago, laughing at her black card. Now, as Amanda slipped the real centurion back into her wallet, she whispered to herself, "It's not cute, it's power, handled gently." As Amanda turned away from the water, her reflection wavered in the river, a reminder of how quickly the world can judge and how rare it is for someone to stand still and see. How many times have you looked past someone who didn't look powerful? Maybe we've all done it, assumed, laughed, dismissed. If this story moved something in you, maybe the smallest kindness you can offer right now is to stay. Stay with the stories like this. Stay with truth. Stay with people trying to see each other clearly. Subscribing isn't about numbers here. It's about remembering not to laugh when you should listen.